How are you protecting children when you were promoting a brand that was accused of inappropriate behavior towards them?
Now, look, it's not being received well, certainly not as well as maybe she would have hoped, with some people labeling it as Zooland.
When Meghan Markle arrived in Paris, every headline promised thunder. The world expected the Duchess of Sussex to reclaim her glamour, to show the city that once adored Princess Diana that the royal spark still burned. But as Meghan Markle stepped into the Balenciaga show, the air changed. Photographers still shouted her name, yet the sound felt hollow. And inside the venue, the applause never came. Paris, famous for its drama, answered her return with quiet. That quiet told its own story, one that no stylist, no publicist, no lens could edit away. From the outside, the night looked perfect. Meghan Markle walked past the cameras with that practiced poise, her chin high, her smile measured. Flashbulbs burst, heels clicked, fashion blogs live-tweeted every movement. But people who were there described a different scene. According to fashion editors, the energy was strangely flat. Stylists exchanged polite nods instead of hugs. Online commentators replayed the footage frame by frame, searching for meaning in the silence. Some said the crowd seemed cautious, others said the Duchess seemed distant. But everyone agreed the spark that once surrounded Meghan Markle had dimmed.
Meghan Markle in Paris. Rather more desperate than Emily in Paris and nowhere near as entertaining. It came out of the blue, utterly unexpected. Suddenly, the difficult Duchess was wafting through the most romantic city on earth, a vision in paper white, lending her regal presence to France's famous Fashion Week. Her first time at the shallow shows where thin models and thick men wear stupidly expensive clothes. Why was she there? Why did she leave her husband and children in Montecito to be seen at Gay Paris' legendary ode to haute couture? She says it was to pay tribute to her friend Paolo Piccioli, creative director of the House of Balenciaga. Attention-seeking as ever, she wore one of his outfits, a weird, cascading, bright white affair that made her look like a scruffy version of the Pope after a night on the tiles. At first I thought she'd had trouble getting out of bed and just shoved her head through the sheets. But with a dreary inevitability, the paparazzi photographs made the front pages. So, mission accomplished.
In the days that followed, social media threads dissected every moment, her posture, her outfit, even her expression. One headline read, "The Duchess meets the cold of Paris." Another compared the reaction to a dress rehearsal for a queen without a kingdom. The narrative forming around Meghan Markle was no longer about royalty. It was about relevance. Was the world still interested, or had fascination turned into fatigue? That question became louder than any applause she might have received. Then came the image that changed the conversation entirely. After leaving the show, Meghan Markle's car drove through the Ponte Lama tunnel, the same place where Princess Diana's life ended. French outlets called it coincidence. British tabloids called it symbolism. Supporters said the route meant nothing. Critics said it meant everything. Within hours, the moment flooded the internet, clips of headlights in the tunnel set to haunting music. Captions asking whether Meghan Markle was echoing Princess Diana on purpose or by fate. The story spread faster than any runway photo. Television anchors debated it. Columnists wrote essays about the power of symbols. Some saw homage, others saw imitation. And through it all, the name Meghan Markle repeated again and again across screens, hashtags, and headlines. Paris had become her stage, but the performance no longer belonged to her. Every viewer brought their own interpretation, every outlet its own angle, and the silence that had started inside Balenciaga now echoed across the world for years. Meghan Markle had spoken about the pressure of comparison, the shadow of Princess Diana, the weight of expectation, the cruelty of gossip. Yet here she was, back in that same city, under that same kind of gaze. The irony was impossible to miss. Commentators noted that even the elegance she carried seemed to underline the tragedy. She once vowed never to repeat. The Duchess, who warned that media obsession could destroy a life, was again caught in its spotlight, unable to control its reflection. By morning, Parisian newspapers printed the same photograph on their front pages. Meghan Markle stepping into her car, cameras flaring behind her, the tunnel lights stretching ahead. The caption was simple: history circles back. That was how Paris saw her, not as a rebel royal, not as a fashion icon, but as a symbol trapped between past and present. And as the world kept repeating her name, the applause she came for never arrived. Only the echo remained dot by the next sunrise. The conversation around Meghan Markle had shifted from fashion to credibility. Commentators on morning panels replayed every clip from Paris Fashion Week, asking why the reaction felt so restrained. Industry insiders said the silence was louder than any boo. Cultural critics said it marked the end of the honeymoon between the Duchess and the public that once crowned her symbol of reinvention. On social media, the name Meghan Markle appeared in thousands of captions, some sympathetic, some sarcastic, but all circling the same question: what happens when an image built on control begins to lose control? The debate widened beyond the runway. Analysts pointed out how each appearance by Meghan Markle seems to spark the same cycle: admiration, scrutiny, backlash, defense, until the meaning of the moment is swallowed by commentary itself. Supporters blamed the media for recycling old wounds. Skeptics argue that the Duchess fuels the fire with her need to direct every narrative. Either way, the pattern had become predictable, and predictability is fatal to mystique. Once a figure of rebellion, Meghan Markle now looked like someone trapped in her own reflection, chasing the applause she used to command effortlessly. When late-night hosts and fashion critics began turning the Paris silence into punchlines, the damage deepened. Networks ran montages comparing her confident walk at Balenciaga with the blank stares of the audience, calling it the quiet herd around the world. Even sympathetic outlets admitted that the city had not embraced her. Yet, through every headline, Meghan Markle's name kept repeating, proof that fascination hadn't disappeared, only changed flavor. Curiosity had replaced affection. Analysis had replaced awe. Paris had transformed her from muse to case study. The Duchess's team released polished statements about focusing on philanthropy and family, but the public conversation refused to move on. Commentators resurrected old interviews, old sound bites, contrasting words with actions, advocacy with alliances. The tone grew colder, more clinical, as if the global audience had turned into a jury. Each sentence began the same way. Meghan Markle says, Meghan Markle denies, Meghan Markle appears, a rhythm of repetition that kept her name alive while eroding the meaning behind it. Meanwhile, fashion insiders described how the industry itself can close its doors quietly. Invitations stop arriving. Fittings get postponed. Designers suddenly become unavailable. The absence becomes a message. And that, reporters said, was what Meghan Markle faced in the weeks after Paris, a soft exile disguised as scheduling. Conflicts. The Duchess, who once symbolized modern royalty, now symbolized the price of overexposure. In Paris, silence had been an accident. Afterward, it became policy. Yet even in retreat, the story wouldn't die. Cultural commentators framed it as a parable about fame in the digital age. How a woman who tried to control her narrative became defined by the noise surrounding it. How empathy curdled into skepticism. How every headline, even sympathetic ones, kept echoing the same three words: Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle, until they no longer described a person, but a phenomenon. One columnist wrote, "She came to Paris to remind the world who she is." The world reminded her that identity is not a costume you can borrow for the weekend. When the lights of Paris finally dimmed, the Duchess returned to California, carrying neither victory nor defeat, only awareness. In the mythology of celebrity, applause fades fast, but echoes last longer. And as her convoy disappeared beyond the airport gates, the final whisper remained. Silence can be temporary, but the memory of silence, the way it felt, the way it sounded, stays forever. Meghan Markle had once measured success by attention. Paris taught her that attention cuts both ways. The city that crowned icons had simply held up a mirror, and when the reflection looked back, the Duchess saw what the world saw too clearly: to ignore fame without mystery, power without peace, and a name repeated until it meant nothing at all, until it meant nothing at all.